So really fast before I introduce the main event, I'm gonna steal your time. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who came to the crab feed and supported it. We projected to make $10,000 and we made $20,000. So $20,452.60 to be exact. So thank you guys so much for all of your participation and volunteer hours and um, raffle tickets purchased and cocktails bought. So thank you, thank you, thank you. It was super fun. And if you have a pencil, please write down these upcoming events. We have a super busy spring, just in case you weren't busy enough with baseball and softball and all the other things that are going on in spring. Um, so first up is, correct me if I'm wrong, board members, Family Science Night. Um, so that is on April 11th, and that is a free event that we will have at the school. It's from 6 to 8. The second grade parents are going to be hosting a dinner that is a fundraiser for their grade level. And there's going to be an assembly, a science themed assembly. I think it's mostly like physical sciences. And then one of our moms is a biopsychology teacher. She's going to be dissecting a cow's eye for everybody. We're going to have student volunteers come in and help her, and that'll be in the multipurpose room. And then we have other awesome science moms and one science dad who will be hosting tables with hands-on activities for the kids. It's going to be super fun. So if you have a child that would like to do a science fair project or some sort of model or something like that, please reach out to me. I'm technologically challenged at the moment. I'm trying to get a flyer out with the sign up to go in backpacks, but my computer's dead. So that is forthcoming, hopefully before spring break, but please let me know if you want to participate in that. And then we have our Scholastic Book Fair, which is going to be the following week. So that's April 15th through the 19th. And that'll be in the multipurpose room, right, Lee? Okay. And we have sixth grader, or not just sixth graders, but what, fourth through sixth graders that are going to be sort of helping and being ambassadors of the book fair, which is awesome. And the middle of that week is open house, which is the 17th of April. And that's always a fun one. You get to go into all the classrooms and see what the kids have been up to. Multicultural night is May 3rd. And then, so that one is going to be a potluck, I think, this year, which is what we used to do before COVID, where everybody could bring a dish from their own background and culture. So we're hoping to bring that back again this year, along with some presenters and shows sort of things throughout the night. Teacher Appreciation Week is that same, or is the following week. So it's May 6th through the 10th. And then the last week of school, we're going to do a field day, which we're just starting to wrap our brains around. It's going to be that Tuesday, the 11th. And so if you want to be a part of that, if you want to help run a station or have ideas of what events we could do for the kids or whatever, please reach out. That one's going to be super fun. So that's on the 11th, the last week of school. Can't believe we're getting so close to all that. Okay. And then there were a couple messages that went out about yearbooks. The website is now functioning. So if you are interested in purchasing a yearbook, you can go ahead and use that link that was sent out in Constella. Priscilla is going to put in the chat the link to submit photos to the yearbook. So we need your help. We have a lot of holes in the photos that we have so far for the yearbook. So we need first grade field trips and just general photos of first grade. Second grade, we mostly need Mr. Reed's class. So if you have kids in that class, please submit some photos. Third grade field trips and just general third grade. Fourth grade general, I think we already have Coloma pretty well covered, but we need other fourth grade pictures. Fifth grade, Marin pictures if you have them, and also just general. And then sixth grade, some Sly Park ones I think have probably come in, but we might need some more. And then, yeah, kinder and TK general photos. So anyway, we still need a lot of photos. So please, if you have any from just being on campus or working any of the field trips, please submit those to the link that Priscilla put in the chat. And it actually doesn't work on a phone. I'm really sorry to tell you that. You have to be on a computer. So yeah. Okay. And then next, last but not least, if you would like to join the PTA board next year, we're trying to get that slate finalized by today. So if you're interested, please, Mimi or Brian or somebody is going to put in the chat the link to that form if you would like to nominate yourself for the board. That's what all of us did. Don't wait to be nominated, just nominate yourself if you're interested. I joined because I'm very nosy and I wanted to know what was going on with the school. And I think that's why most of us joined. So if you want to be more informed, please just join us. We meet once a month, the third Thursday of every month generally. And you don't have to be in charge of anything. Especially your first year, it's like just kind of join us, see how it goes, and then you can kind of fill in where you feel comfortable. So that's my plug for that. Principal Aoun is here along with the district advanced learning coordinator, Kari. And they're going to just explain to us the plan for next year and answer your questions. We did have thank you to those of you who submitted your questions ahead of time. That's super helpful for them to know like how to kind of direct their comments. So they're going to focus on answering those in addition to all the other stuff they're going to talk about. So if you have questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. You can chat me directly if you want me to pose the question. You can chat Mrs. Aoun or Kari also, or you can do it to everybody. But yeah, anyway, so I think it's most helpful for the questions to be in the chat, just in case we don't get to them, then we have record of them and we can make sure that they get answered eventually if it doesn't happen tonight. So please go ahead and direct your questions to the chat. And without further ado, Principal Aoun and Miss Kari. Thank you. I'm gonna mute myself. You're muted.
I'm going to unmute myself. Sorry about that. And I'm going to share my screen. I have a very basic presentation here. Let's see. There we go. All right. So this is our big picture goal. And so thank you so much, Kari, for being here with us. I really appreciate it. This is actually something we've been mulling over and just thinking hard and deeply about for a long time. Our goal, as the title says, is that we want all of our kids to know how very special they are, to know how capable they are, and to be able to thrive academically, social, emotionally, in every way. So we've been just thinking about it a lot, and we've come up with just some whys, first of all, and then a plan for how we might look at our school just a little bit different, while really serving all of our kids. So our goals are really to increase inclusion and challenge across all grade levels for all learners, to provide opportunities for all of our students to be able to interact with their grade level peers. You might know that right now, second grade and up, kids pretty much stay with the same group of grade level peers through each of their classes. And then we really want to make sure that, as Dr. Renzulli from the University of Connecticut says, that we are fostering enjoyment, engagement, and enthusiasm for learning. So I'll just do this little presentation, then we can go to questions. Does that sound appropriate? Okay.
Yeah, I can maybe even like offer some responses to some of the questions that were submitted earlier. That might
Yeah,
address
perfect.
some of the questions.
Yeah, yeah, okay, that sounds great. So just so that you all have a kind of foundational understanding of what we're talking about, um, we are talking about doing homeroom placement of students that facilitates collaboration and interactions with varied students. So rather than placing um, in separate classes, we would have a, a classroom of kids from both of our current grade level classrooms. Um, and then what it would look like is instructional exchanges for what we're calling what I need time, which is basically a differentiated time for kids based on their learning profiles, so that if they need and are ready for advanced learning opportunities, they would get that during that time. If they need, say, some support in one area, and this would be really regardless of their gate identification currently, would be more looking at what do they need in that moment, as we know that kids do not necessarily have strengths in every single area or weaknesses in every single area. So it's really looking at children individually and their individual learning profiles. Having said that, these groupings will be flexible. So it's if you're in one group, one trimester, and then you're ready for another group, we can be flexible with those groupings as well. And then students would be in their homeroom groupings for science and social studies, depending on the activities. And then all students would also have opportunities for enrichment and interest groups. So this is just a sample schedule, and I checked this by one of our fourth grade teachers, Mrs. Mayer, and I said, does this look workable to you, or am I not thinking straight? And she said, no, this looks workable. So basically, kids would start out in a homeroom group, then begin their language arts instruction, or it could be math, depending on the grade level. But at, say, 9:20 in their WIN group, their What I Need group. Then in fourth grade, they have a morning break at 10:20. Then they would go back possibly to their homeroom, possibly they would stay in their WIN groups. It's this, it's going to be flexible depending on a particular assignment, and what the teachers feel is the next best step. But possibly, they have their lesson at 9:20, then they come back and finish more of their independent work in their homeroom group. Then at 11:30 is math time, so they would go to their What I Need group again, which could be a different What I Need group, or it could be the same What I Need group, depending on, again, the student's individual profile and what they need for their best learning. Then there's lunchtime, and then there's time for science, social studies, enrichment, and interest groups. And again, we're working through all of these details, and would be able to, teachers will be able to speak to it a little more as we work through the different areas. But in general, for the most part, teachers are providing the science, social studies, and enrichment in the afternoon time. And I hope maybe this is a time to jump into some of the teacher training, because I know that was part of one of the questions that we received. So this is going to entail professional learning for our teachers, because we want to make sure that they are ready to, many of these topics they are already quite familiar with, but we just want to make sure that they have the understandings and the learnings that they need to be able to best meet the needs of all the kids. So Kari's department, the Advanced Learning Department, she has very graciously set up some training opportunities around differentiation, around compacting instruction, tiering assignments, and project menus. In addition, our special education department will provide universal design for learning basics, which is another way to design learning. And Kari can maybe speak to the difference between differentiation and universal design for learning, but they do have some commonalities. And then, of course, co-teaching, which is the model we're already using in our classes to serve our kids with disabilities. So this brings me to the Venn diagram of universal design for learning and differentiated instruction. Would you like Kari to speak to that within the context of some of our teacher training that you're planning?
Sure, sure. And I probably have some other things to share, just to lay a little bit of groundwork and orientation about
Perfect.
gifted education in California, but I can start here and then work my way around. And I see there's some questions in the chat. I'm trying to get to them as I can. And honestly, please put your questions in the chat, because even if we aren't able to get to it tonight in our limited time, Lori and I can get back to you. So thank you all for having me here. I'm Kari Lofing. This is my 10th year overseeing gifted education and advanced placement programs in our district. And for a good share of those 10 years, Lori and I have been in conversation about how to best serve the students at Sutterville, especially because Sutterville has the uniqueness of being an inclusive practices school site. And it's really important that we extend that philosophy of inclusion across the entire campus. When we are talking about serving students who need varied points of access to get to that curriculum, there's a theory, a model called universally designed learning. And that's all about providing access to content. And our special ed department provides really rich PL around designing instruction to ensure that all learners, no matter their entry point, can access that without barriers. And sometimes when we design content that way, others are able to benefit. So for example, we have cutouts in curbs, right? So that are designed so that wheelchairs can get over the curb and onto the sidewalk. But we can all think of lots of other benefits to having those cutouts in our curbs, right? Strollers, all sorts of kids riding bikes. I'm not going to go too far over my skis on that, but UDL is the instructional design theory around that. And it intersects with differentiated instruction, which is the instructional practice that we talk about most often in gifted education services, which is around designing instruction so that the content, the process, and the products that students design or experience are tailored for student readiness, student interests, and student learning preferences. So our teachers, many of your teachers at Sutterville, have had a tremendous amount of PL, professional learning rather, already in differentiated instruction in supporting that content, process, product to be varied based on student readiness and student interests and how students prefer to experience that learning. This schedule that Lori presented, just a draft, just like a quick what a day in the life could look like, that does involve movement. It is an exchange style, right? That's the idea. It's an exchange style. So kids are moving from room to room during that day, and it takes that differentiation up another level, right? So it takes that differentiation. So now instead of differentiating across the needs of 33 students, we can look at 66 students and design learning across all of those needs. The snapshot Lori provided, and hopefully this addresses some of the questions that I'm seeing in the chat. And I know there's some longer ones I need to look at here. There would be room on other days for all of the same pullouts that already happen. That would all get navigated as those teacher teams plan their weeks. Right, so library is still going to happen, art's still going to happen, PE is still going to happen. There's state law around PE. Of course, those minutes are going to happen. So it's a little bit there. I wanted to talk about a couple of other things just to give some context. So I think it's important for everybody to be aware, maybe different from when any of us were in school, if we were in school in California, or if you came from a school system in another state, that California has not had any education code that describes, defines, funds, or requires anything to do, any aspect of gifted education services. That ed code has been gone since 2014, if not a little bit before that, based on some things that happened with funding in 08. Certainly, if any of you are interested in working with me on those issues, shoot me a note. I'd love to chat. So in Sac City, identifying students for gifted education services and providing services is through board policy. And so that's kind of what we operate under is the board policy. And so I think it's more helpful. Some of us have this idea of like a GATE program because maybe that was what we experienced or what we're familiar with our friends experiencing in school. It's more functional right now to talk about GATE services across tiered supports. There's an MTSS Diamond you can Google. If you really literally just Google MTSS Diamond, it'll show you what that could look like, where, you know, all of our students get tier 1 and some students need some additional extensions, supports in their area of aptitude and need, and some kids need some really intensive supports there. But all of these services in Sac City, in California, in the districts that provide GATE services in California, are provided just as a part of daily classroom instruction, right, through differentiated instruction and enrichment. That was just a little bit of overview context. Happy to talk about that more anytime when we have more time. I want to touch on one of the other questions that I saw in the advanced questions, which was about GATE certification. I hope you all can see my little air quote fingers. And so I think GATE certification, that concept of there being like a thing a teacher could achieve through X number hours of PL, really sat when we had ed code that called for set numbers of professional learning hours. So in the advanced learning department, instead, our shift moving forward is that district-wide, from my office, our focus is on ongoing professional learning for all teachers who are supporting students who need GATE services. What does that look like at Sutterville? Well, that's to ensure that all of the teachers TK through 6. I don't know if you have TK yet, but it's probably coming. So, right, at all grade levels, all teachers have the ability to participate in an ongoing cycle of PL professional learning, starting next year, that's focused on across all the kids in that grade level, implementing high leverage differentiated instruction across all of those content areas. And we're going to focus on some practices like compacting. I can come back and unpack this vocabulary for you more later. Happy to do that. It's going to focus on tiering, which is what we need to do. Even if I have 30 kids in front of me, they're not a monolith. They're all going to come in with different readiness levels, even if I know that we've done some pre-assessments and all of these kids are talented readers. Well, even within that, we're still going to have bands of reading achievement there. And even if I know that I've got a room full of emerging readers, I've still got bands of need for growth there. And I want all those kids to be growing. We're going to work on compacting. We're going to work on tiering. We're going to make sure that everybody has a strong foundation in just differentiation basics. And then using some resources like project menus so that students have more choice and voice in the kinds of tasks that they're working on to demonstrate their mastery. We're going to emphasize those supports in reading, language arts, and math, because that's where Sutterville's implementing this exchange model. I think a misconception is that in California, there's no such thing as like a GATE certificate that a teacher would have on their credential. California doesn't have a pathway for any sort of like additional authorization. So teachers just getting a GATE certificate and then never coming back to another professional learning opportunity from my office, well, that isn't really all that rich either, is it? Because research changes and best practices evolve. And so what we want is that continuous cycle. The other piece that I wanted to touch on was some stuff just about like, will my kids still be GATE? So we try to put the kid first, right? So these are students who've been identified to receive services. And yes, in Sac City, students and at Sutterville, it is part of a universal screening process. Students will continue to be screened for and identified for GATE services. That's part of MTSS, a multi-tiered system of support. This is part of us being able to provide academic supports in those exchange classes. And the way those exchange classes will be designed is so that students are grouped based on their academic needs in those core foundational content areas, making sure that they're given learning tasks that challenge them in their instructional level. Right? So that's some of what's happened in that self-contained classroom is, right? Things could be set at that instructional level. That will continue. And even in those groups, right? Even in a 4th grade self-contained GATE class, maybe not all of those students are precocious mathematicians, right? Because it is most typical in Sacramento within our identified population of gifted students that they have an area where they really need to be pushed. And they may be more on level in other areas. So this gives some opportunity in the day for that to happen. And then to be an interest and a more heterogeneous across the grade level mix for that homeroom starting the day, and then that wrapping up the day with science or history. So those were some of the things that came out. It is a shift, but kids are still going to get services. And I will say this. If you really, 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 for a variety of reasons, made a family choice to move to Sutterville because, and I'm seeing names and faces here of folks I've had conversations with. If you need to work out an individual situation with me about your family, let's not do that in front of the whole neighborhood, but reach out to me. Let's find time to talk. This may not be what you exactly want to hear, but if you need that all day, full day, self-contained space, I have spaces for you at other schools. And I'm happy to help make that happen for your family, but that's a you and me chat to talk through those logistics. Sorry, that was kind of like, that felt like heavy there at the end, but I just want you to know, like I am here to help you work out what this might mean for your family, right? Okay, now I'm going to take a minute because I can't read and talk at the same time. Lori, are there questions?
I'm trying to answer as you're talking, not very
Okay.
well, but I will answer Amber. I was just trying to type. Yes, it's very similar to what we're doing with our kindergarten and first graders, in the sense, especially our first graders, who are having the kindergarten teachers pull in the special education staff. And I can't promise 7 groups, but right now our first graders are in 7 different groups, very individualized instruction. And that's what we're looking at, is that, so, kids who need the intervention, perhaps they're learning their letters or they're learning how to blend words, can get that intervention that they need, while the kids who are maybe already reading above first grade level are in another group reading books and being challenged that way. And 7 different groups from very beginning readers to very advanced readers. So that's what we're looking at being able to do. And that's the beauty really of the inclusive practices model, is that we're able to pull in additional staff members to support making sure that everybody's needs get met. I see.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot more like small group
Mhm.
style instruction. In terms of, Laura, I think this is sort of important. I answered one of the earlier ones about IEPs.
Mhm.
That whole needing to share that IEP information with another teacher, like super doable, check, yes, can do.
Mhm.
Needing to share 504s, check, yes. It may be in an annual or a triennial meeting where another teacher needs to be able to be present. If they've been the one teaching more of your child's math or language arts to meet your child's goals.
Mhm.
But actually, this could create a system where your child can get more focused in their class instruction in that small group.
Mhm. Well, and so also it's not going to impact service model, but I think it will open up some opportunities for kids, as Kari was saying, kids don't come at one level in every subject, right? I don't have strengths in every academic level, or area. Nobody does, right? So a child might have an IEP because maybe decoding reading is difficult, but they just excel in math. So they wouldn't be they wouldn't be held back by having to be in one particular group. They could, even though they have an IEP to help with reading, they'll get their services during language arts time, and then perhaps they are in a different group for mathematics instruction. So it in a way can be more flexible to meet their needs. Let's see, we only have 2 teachers per grade level. Yeah, so we're going to have two separate groups, but remember we can pull in additional support. So it just gives us a little more flexibility. We have instructional aides who can push in. We have our specialists who can push in as well.
So I'm looking here both at Shannon's question and Priscilla's question, and I'm wondering if what Lori and her team, and I'm happy to help with this, can help put together for like a future PTA meeting might be some like sample, like here's what a week could look like for you to be able to see. So you can see how, like, here's what a kid's days could look like across a week where art and PE and those transitions all fit in. And you can kind of see the percentage of time. I think we can model up some visuals for you of what that would look like. I also think in terms of helping you see like the rhythms and cycles of pre-assessment, small group instruction, reassessment, potential shuffle, pre-assessment, instruction, assessment, potential shuffle, right? What that could look like across a math unit, what that could look like, particularly for kids who are all like for reading, students who are all on level readers, they're all reading within a pretty close band of each other. How those groups can be mixed up. So you're not always with the same 6 kids for your reading group all year, that might get mixed around a little bit. Depending on the kid. I also know we have students here with IEPs for whom transition and change is like a big dysregulating factor. And so let's consider that in our planning, right? Like the teacher team will consider that, how they can create consistency for those kiddos. In terms of who does the assessments, it sort of depends, like the teachers would, for, let's say we're doing unit 2 in math. I'm gonna just make up a bunch of words here. And we've been working on a particular skill set. Well, I've been teaching my small group, but my 4th grade teaching colleague, we designed the same assessment. We're giving out that same assessment to everybody. They're going to take it with the grown-up in front of them, but we're all giving the same assessment. And then my colleague and I are going to sit and go over those assessments together and use that data together to say, okay, so I've got a group of kids here. They all missed this foundational skill. So for our next wind rotation, I'm going to pull them and we're going to re-go over that. And you've got these kids who are working on this. So it's a lot of those teacher teams having, and Lori and I've been talking about how this fits in the teacher day, week, month rhythm. It's a lot of those teachers having time to sit together and co-teach all of the kids in that grade level with additional resource support, which all sounds very like nebulous out here, which is why I think the next time Lori and I join you, we can show you some visuals of what that could look like, if that would be helpful. No, it won't, because Gates, Amy, I'm reading your question. No, because GATE services are differentiated instruction. That is what GATE services are. And this is just taking differentiation across all of the kids in that grade level. And yeah, sure, absolutely. That's a great idea about, how making sure that kids aren't missing out on science or history, if for early dismissal and all of that. Lori, can you speak to the work, Shannon's question here, that the teachers have been engaged in?
I was just trying to answer it. Yes, we've talked about it quite a bit, and I would not ever want to move forward without the teachers' buy-in. So yes, definitely teachers have agreed. We also agreed that we have, lots of work to do to and the planning and the scheduling and all of those things to make sure that we're um, doing this right. Um, but we had unanimous agreement that we needed our kids to have time with each other. Um, just as a school culture piece, as a self-concept piece for all of our kids. Um, so yes, we weren't sure what it was going to look like, but we've been working it through and figuring out the best way to do this, so that all of our kids get the challenge that they need.
So yes, Emily, the plan is
Yes, indeed.
this is happening next year. And yes, it does involve a lot of details. And this kind of teaching approach requires a lot of collaboration, requires ongoing opportunities for that professional learning. And the teachers are in for that, right? Like that's gonna happen. And this is a part of, I know some of you in the room are teachers, and this is part of teaching. Part of teaching is doing this pre-assessment, instruction, reassessment. Now, what do I need to do? How do I best meet my students' needs? This is what they do as professionals. So yeah. And Allison, great questions there around how those rooms feel. That's all in opportunities for professional development.
Development. Well,
Yeah.
and I was just, you always are faster than I am at composing things and typing. Teachers have different personalities, so that's real. I can't promise you that everybody's going to have the same way of dealing with all issues. However, we have as a staff, when we first started implementing our inclusive practices model, we have had training in PBIS, and we will be actually starting when we get back from spring break. We're going to be working on consistency, because as so many of you know who have so graciously donated so much time to helping with yard duty, and I so appreciate it. There is a need for more staffing for our yard duty, and just getting consistency back on the school site as a whole. And then we'll continue to work on that also as individual teachers and making sure that we have as much consistency as possible from classroom to classroom. I also was looking at Susie. So yes, we do have common expectations and we'll be reviewing them with kids after spring break. Sorry, Allison, I'm interrupting myself. And then we'll also review those at the beginning of the school year, make sure that we're, to the extent possible, providing classroom environments that are consistent for kids. The groups will be a combo, to answer your question, Susie, in terms of how they're determined. It'll be, and it's not internal assessment measures. We're using the district-wide common assessments, looking at that, looking at classroom data. Yeah, so combination of data points is a good question. Let's see. Oh, you already answered it. Okay.
No, but that was good to hear from you too. I think one of the things that happens in our system is a student is identified for gate services. They're gate ID'd. I try to get away from that. But what all teachers have access to is the underlying COGAT scores that you all got, right? They have access to that in Infinite Campus, and that is so much more rich than just knowing a student's gate flag, because that COGAT data tells us where those aptitudes are specifically. So that's a much more informative data point that teachers have. So, and where growth potential is. That's one of the reasons we use COGAT, is because it was designed for teachers to be able to inform instructional groups. So this is a great opportunity at Sutterville to be able to leverage that data much more effectively. Emily, thank you so much for highlighting that. I think that is super doable, right? Like that's all.
It is, and also a really good point, because that's an important, yeah, very important consideration. And I understand. So yes.
Yeah, and I mean, Shannon, it was super like just a drafty mock-up of what a day in life could look like. And I definitely am excited for Lori and I to sit down and draft out some more visuals for you. It didn't like it.
Though I shared my
Oh, you shared the wrong thing.
I shared my working document.
And I would also like to offer, like, so this is Lori and my, first time coming to the to have this conversation with all of you. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to come back and give you a little bit of our further thinking in a month or so, as Lori's had more time with the staff, and we can start to see more forecasting for what next year is going to look like.
So. I'm not sure if I closed it. I'm going to look for it again. There it is. Okay.
And also, if you hang up this Zoom and want to chat more about this, you have a question that bubbled up later, send it to Lori and I. Because I mean, any of you who've heard me give chats elsewhere know I would so much rather chat with you about it in person or over email than to have it on social media and wandering around and all of that. Like, ask what you're wondering is, please. I will drop my email in the chat. Thanks for asking, Kim. And oh yeah, for like subs come in and do what they just fill into those shoes, and the other grade level teacher is going to help that all work out. So, and I'm seeing some of you who are teachers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And you know how this works out. So learning profile, no, that is not what a COGAT does. A COGAT is not a learning profile piece. There are some tools that the teachers have, primarily University of Connecticut has some really great student interest analyzers that kids fill out. We can use that as a tool. Teachers do this already. Teachers are really great at identifying learning profiles in those first couple of launch weeks in the year. But we have resources and tools for kids to share information about how they best prefer to learn and what they are most interested in. And then their readiness profile, their academic needs, we have robust data in the system. So there's lots of pieces of data. COGAT is one of those cognitive data pieces. There's other ongoing assessment data, classroom level assessment data pieces that we can pull. So Emily, I know we're running into our last few minutes, and I look forward to coming back and talking more about how students in those, so let's say across the 66 kids in 4th grade, we've got 6 tiers of instruction happening. And in those 6 tiers, we have 2 groups of students who, for that upcoming learning, are far beyond what we would have been expected to be teaching. whether they were identified for GATE services or not, we know that they are ready for more. Then in that group, that is what their learning will be on that content, right? So students who are reading far, far above grade level will be given opportunities to be reading in groups with other students who are reading far above grade level about novel concepts, to be having rich discussions pushed into that authentic reading, reading and writing and applying those in complex ways. So yes, and then that group may shift around a little bit as other kids' skills get to there for the next unit of instruction. I didn't say I gave a reading example because that's sort of easy. Acceleration is something different. We're all still doing 4th grade. So everybody's still reading within, the 4th grade standards to do the reading expectations of that. Not that we would be doing 5th grade work. You can work with a group of kids who are advanced readers and still be studying characterization in the way it's called for in the 4th grade standards. So that's, yeah. But I mean, I can come back, I can talk more about depth, complexity, novelty, and acceleration. So, yeah. All right, are there other things? I don't know that we need. Lori, is there anything?
I'm trying to think, is there anything we haven't really talked about? I don't think so. I think the big task is going to be very carefully forming these classes, and then very carefully constructing what is already always a puzzle, which is the scheduling piece. But I'm really excited because I think it's going to open a lot of opportunities for all of our kids. So any other questions? Hi, Theo.
Priscilla, it may change. That may change. So
From year to year, but it would stay the homeroom would stay the same for a year. Is how I'm seeing it, correct?
That's the idea that
Yeah.
I mean, things happen, right? But the idea is 99.9% it would stay the same. So it's already been communicated to the teachers. And so
we wanted to bring you folks in first before we talk to kids about it. So I'll be meeting with the teachers the week after spring break. We have our staff meeting, and we'll talk about that. How are we going to communicate this to kids? I actually think kids get it. I think they'll understand because a lot of them have friends across classrooms and have wanted to spend time with friends in different classrooms and haven't had that homeroom kind of experience. So I think they understand. I also think they'll understand because we talk about it a lot, how everybody has gifts. And so I think it's a powerful experience for them to have time together so that they can see that they all have gifts and see that firsthand. That's where I feel really strongly about that because I also know the impact that it has on some kids feeling not feeling that their gifts are recognized. So we want to make sure that all of our kids know that their gifts are recognized. And talking again about Renzulli, who has done a lot of the gifted and talented research and the models is, there's lesson learning And then there's productive creativity and social emotional learning. And the people who are really successful have that ability to be creatively productive and work with other people. And again, that's a gift, right? And that's something, and the other thing Renzulli says is that those are things that can be developed. And so that's our goal here, is to develop our kids' problem-solving ability, their ability to tap into their creativity, you know, and it doesn't have to be based on um, uh, some type of conception of what gifted and talented is. It's everybody can grow and learn, and that's the, you know, we talk about the growth model, the growth mindset, that we might not know that yet, but we can learn that, and we can create new ideas. And so that's what I feel really strongly about, is that all people have gifts. And so
I think that's probably a good place for this introduction to thing as we're building the plane behind the scenes. I
yes.
think it's probably a good place to pause
Yeah,
for
and
tonight, if that's okay, Lee.
absolutely. And I think yeah, I think, you know, that my door is open. Please email, call. Same with Kari. We're happy to answer questions. And I'm just so grateful to our PTA president and the PTA board, and all the parents who have reached out to me to let me know that this is something that you support moving forward. And so thank you all.
All right, on that note.
All right.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank
Sorry.
you so much for all the
I was just
comments. It's good to know what you're feeling right now is, you know, and yeah, so thank you.
Thank you both for taking the time to lay it out for us and explain it. I think it has good bones, right? That's like what you say when you go into the house. It's like I think it's going to be great once we get all the details worked out, and like you said, very conscientious placement of certain students in certain heterogeneous homerooms makes sense. And I'm excited for all of our kids to feel valued and supported. So thank you guys for your time. Thank you, parents, for
Absolutely.
showing up on a random Tuesday.
I know.
You win. And we'll get this video out to the parents that couldn't make it. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Awesome.
night.
Thank you.